Ultra Edge, Hawkeye, Hotspot, the stump mic. Cricket is now full of new technology. But could a microchipped ball transform the sport? A new Kookaburra smart ball is being trialled in the Caribbean Premier League. This chip is fitted into the cork rubber so it can feed back the speed, swing, bounce, and even the power of the bowler. It really is quite something. And the designers hope that the International Cricket Council might consider its use in future international matches. To tell us more, joining us on Stumped is former Australia bowler Michael Kasper, who is the chairman and co-owner of SportCore, the company which has been developing the smart ball. Michael, thank you for joining us on Stumped. What was your first impression of the concept of the smart ball when it was first raised with you?
Thanks, Izzy. It's wonderful to be here and join everyone at the moment. And the first time I came across it, immediately after my almost 20 years playing as a professional player and almost 8.5 years on the board as a director of Cricket Australia, so almost 30 years, easily I identify this as the most exciting bit of sport tech I've seen in all my time. And the reason is that it's for the player, because it's giving the player feedback about what they're doing rather than the strength and conditioning coach, the umpires, in a broadcast sense as well. Immediately, I just was drawn to it because I thought it's so powerful because of the feedback the player's receiving out of the ball. And as you pointed out, those metrics of speed, spin, and power are just the beginning.
How did the idea come about in the first place? I mean, you've been involved in cricket for a very long time. What was the light bulb moment?
I came across the founder. His name is Ben Tattersfield. He came up with the idea kind of in his garage almost. He talks about himself being a really bad golfer. And immediately when he thought, how can I change that? And it got to the point where he got to Titleist. I think it was Titleist, where he actually spoke to the people there and with the concept and, are you interested? And let's have a look. And they said, that's a fantastic idea, mate, but we make all our money from people losing golf balls. We actually don't need them to find them. So that's where he got the idea. And one of the things that I think for me was the attraction. He had actually had an agreement with Kookaburra. So rather than this product going to be as I like to say, a Santa sack filler come Christmas time and just a novelty item, there was something around that, because when you're dealing with a 100-year-old company, they're really protective, obviously, on their brand and what they produce and all that. So it was really important that connection. And given the fact that I realise in England, where you are, Izzy, there's the Duke, and over in Charu, over in India, of course, it's the SG. But right around the world for one-day cricket, the Kookaburra turf ball comes in white and is used right around the world.
Kasper, Jim Maxwell here in
Hello,
Sydney.
Jim.
Nice to see you. You were during the Shield final, I recall. So it's being used in the Caribbean Premier League. What's the feedback been from the players so far?
The feedback's been great. The players love it. The ball swings, the ball spins. Cricket, if you like, is the most brutal sport in its treatment of our balls. And so to actually test this out, first of all, in cricket, we're looking forward to taking it elsewhere. What
information are you going to get, particularly while you're out there in the middle? You're going to have someone conveying the information to you?
No. Look, the way I've described it is that we like to, and there's 3 key words I like to use here: and empowering, exciting, and engaging. And so we're going to empower the athlete because they can actually use the ball at training and get an insight into themselves. So we're going to excite the fans and going to engage all players, because as far as an athlete's concerned, we're on the constant improve. When you actually have a coach that can tell you what's going on, and when you've got some video to watch, there's a secret sort of part as a player. We talk about feel, and maybe for spin bowlers, it's the revolutions of the ball and measuring the revolutions in your leg spinner that comes out and working out that feel. It's up to the player to find that. So you actually measure the spin or out of the hand and also the revolutions post bounce of the ball. Your coaches will actually go and look hard, and whether you're a batting coach or a bowling coach, you'll look to the data to find little insights there. And really, that's it. We're actually giving this tool because it's never been captured before, certainly from the centre of the cricket ball. And to me, that's the most exciting part. And for me to be involved, I'm really enjoying it.
Kasper, hi, this is Charu Sharma for All India Radio from India. You sound like Dr. Kasperovich at this point in time. And finally, there's something more for the bowlers to celebrate, because they keep saying it's a batsman's game, but I'm glad there's something for the bowlers now. Every new technological challenge has all sorts of, teething problems. What's been your biggest initial design or technical problem?
Well, what we've done is actually taken the cork rubber compound that the cricket balls were made of and replaced that with the size, the weight, and density, if you like, with our chip. And so it was actually creating the protective core around the electronic. Over time, technology always improves. So when I first started here and we had our first iterations of the ball, from the time you actually bowl the ball and started it and then you stopped it in the nets on your phone, for the time for the data to be sent up to the cloud was about, I think originally it was about 15, 20 seconds. We're now at 2.
Well, there's going to be new terminology in cricket now, Kasper, thanks to you. They used to beat the leather out of the ball. Now beat the chip out of the ball is going to be the new one. We'll see. How are you doing with the acceptance of the ball? How long before the world uses it, and what's the acceptance from the ICC so far?
We've had conversations. I've spoken with ICC, we've spoken with IPL, we've spoken with Cricket Australia, all different environments. Everyone's really interested. So obviously there's a process we have to go through to get it accepted. But even from a player's point of view, I think the question before was how are they finding it? Conveniently, being based in, the Gold Coast here in Queensland, Australia, is where the company's from. But here in Brisbane is the National Cricket Centre. And so all the Australian cricket teams all come through Brisbane on their way to the West Indies or wherever they're going to go. And so it's the high performance centre of Australian cricket is right here on our doorstep, to the point where Cricket Australia have been fantastic in the invitation to come through with their sports science guys to test it out. So even before Australia went to the West Indies, even though it didn't correspond to their result, the players were actually using the ball in training sessions. What was really interesting was you had someone like Mitchell Starc coming in and bowling, and they were supposed to be bowling at 80%. So he was bowling about 46 kilowatts out of the hand. So this is the whole concept. There's new content. There's new insight that the commentators like Danny Morrison and Simon Dewell over there in the CPL right now can actually give to the audience, because, of course, there's the colour side with commentary, and give them a sense of actually what's happening. It's not about making technology for technology's sake and making it the smartest thing going around. What we want to do is make it accessible and affordable for every cricketer. So whether it be the national players or whether it be state players, club players, or even junior players, is you're actually going to be able to see how fast you're bowling the ball. And not only compare to the top level, but also compare to your mates, your friends, your family. And I think that was the real attraction.
I was going to say, Michael, if you can make the balls cheaper, that'd be a good thing. And while we're on the subject of Australian cricket, let's get your opinion on this speculation and negativity it is, I suppose, around the coach, Justin Langer, in recent weeks. What do you make of the current situation?
Oh, look, I think when a team loses, like a lot of football teams at this time of the year, certainly here in Australia, they start asking questions of the coach. They're always the first point. Australia has lost a couple of series in a row. I guess everything's amplified within the team. I suppose, Jim, you've seen that over many years. Of course, when you're winning, everything's solved. Now, one of the things I think Justin Langer coming into the side when he did, the Australian cricket team needed a level of discipline. I mean, I think that's the core skill of every team. Justin Langer's come in and done that in his own way. And maybe the players, to be honest, being a little bit older, but through this process, they don't need the big stick anymore. So I'm sure that Justin's taken that on and looked at it ways, and you'll actually find, I think, they're only a win away from everything being rosy again.
Well, thank you, Michael, for joining us on Stumped. I think ever the diplomat as far as Australian cricket is concerned, but in terms of that technology, that's the exciting bit. I mean, maybe Justin Langer could do with some of the data points there to help him along and to cover over some of the cracks that are forming. Not that I'm taking any glee in this from an English perspective, and I do wonder as well with the data that you get from these chips. I feel like it's somewhere for women's cricket to really expand as well, because one of the problems with developing women's cricket and the bowling especially is that there aren't enough data points. There's not enough numbers or analysis that to be provided from what we currently have. So perhaps this is an area that could be exploited for the women's game as well.
I totally agree, Izzy. I think that absolutely. And the quicker we can get into a 142, I think that's the better.
Michael, thank you very, very much. Jim, you're an old school man, and yet I feel as though the data points to something that really piqued your interest.
Well, I'm always interested in that, but I'm more of a romantic when it comes to the game, and I like to see the things that are variables be sustained. And in cricket, we don't play on the same pitches all the time. We don't play in the same atmospheric conditions all the time. They vary a bit. And the ball. There's the one thing in cricket that is not standardised. There's a kookaburra, there's a dukes, there's an SNG. It's amazing, actually. We don't have a standard ball other than looking at its size and its weight, which is specified in the laws. But, the material that goes into a ball is different between a dukes and a kookaburra and an SNG. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what impact the data that's produced from this has on the way the game is played. But we don't want everything to be uniform, constant. We want to have variables. And I still like to think, like Michael Kasperovich did, when the umpire came up with the box of balls, he put his hand on every one of them and then, that one, that's going to be the one. But it could be a dud. And, that's part of the game, isn't it?
I feel as though cricket is a very long way before it becomes uniform and everything's the same. It's about how you use that data, and this sounds like a very welcome step forward.